The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for Short Time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine.
The one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
Episode 298 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Going back to Cali. I'm going back to Cali. I don't know the rest of the words. Something. I don't think so. Today, the champions of the California Community College League, the head coach, Paul Keysaw. Coach Keysaw, welcome to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast.
Pleasure to be with you.
So this winning thing for you is kind of contagious in its old hat, as this is your sixth state title at Fresno City. You had three more when you were coaching at Moore Park, but put this one in perspective. We'll go in depth with the individual performances later on in the program, but this title, it's been a couple years since you'd won one. What's this one mean for you in Fresno City?
Well, I tell you, this was a very special year for sure. Not too many people thought that the Rams were going to come out on top at the end, and I might have been one of them through most of this part of the season. Each and every team, to me, they're like children. They're all different. This year especially, I was just really enamored with the way the guys pulled themselves together, the way that they came with the lunch pail every day and worked, and the way they never really gave up. I was always impressed with that. By the end of the year, either they finally figured things out or we as a coaching staff finally figured things out. But something got figured out here towards the end of the season. And, man, we just really started wrestling well and really coming on.
Finished up the season, I believe, 11-2 in duels. I was doing my darndest to try to keep up with the dual meet records for just starting with California, since it was the only wrestling going on in the fall. I know you had the loss in the state dual finals to Cerritos. They came in pretty much undefeated in league play. They were the favorites. But, when the kids put things together like that, it kind of makes coaching a little easier, doesn't it?
Well, it definitely makes it funner, that's for sure. I don't know if coaching's ever easy, but it sure does make it funner. And, and it was fun. Cerritos was undefeated. They had won everything. And, I told the kids it's really kind of what happened to us last year. I just told them, Cerritos, they're wounded right now. They're looking over their shoulder. And I said, and we're running downhill. We just need to keep running.
You've spent 21 years, over 2 decades coaching in California. So let's just backtrack and figure out the line that took Paul Keysaw from Pennsylvania high school state champion to NCAA Division I champion at CSU Bakersfield. I mean, you started your career at Bloomsburg. How does one go from, Athens, Pennsylvania to Bloomsburg to Bakersfield, California?
Man, Jason, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about that in 25 years, to be honest with you. But, honestly, I think that's what's the great thing about our sport of wrestling. And I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for the sport of wrestling, I would have never moved to California. I would have never been in California. And, since I've been in California, I've absolutely fallen in love with California. I love being out here. The transition was a little rough when I was young, but, the older I get, the more I appreciate it. And, I still have that Pennsylvania small town mentality. I can tell you that. I get picked on quite a bit for words that I use and analogies and things that I say. So I haven't lost that Pennsylvanianess, I guess. So it's funny you said I've been coaching for 2 decades now. That seems like a long time. I feel like I might be getting old.
What about that Pennsylvania scrapple?
Yeah, I haven't had that in a while. I don't really miss that. Here in California, we call that chorizo.
You just put some spices into it, make it something else. So that's what it is. Chorizo's not
exactly.
Yeah, I love chorizo. Now that I know what's in it, I'm like, well, okay. But anyway. So as we look at the way the coaching situation works in California, you've got a pretty diverse group, some full-timers, some part-timers. Where do you fall into that role with your position at Fresno City?
Well, I'm actually one of the very fortunate ones. I have a full-time position here at Fresno City College. I teach recreation. We have a recreation degree here at Fresno City College. So I'm in charge of recreation, which works great for me. I basically takes kids camping and teach them how to be outdoor people. And I also teach adaptive physical education. I work with disabled kids. So I have a full-time job here at City, and they basically pay me a lot of money to be the wrestling coach. That's at least what I tell people.
If they believe it, great. All right. Now, I want to circle back to the college career because I said Division I NCAA champion. I don't want to gloss over that fact because that's an accomplishment, people in this sport really trying to attain. You did it at CSU Bakersfield, and you're a two-time Division I All-American. But interestingly enough, if you look at your career path in those brackets, as a junior, there's two things that stood out to me. One, you beat a guy from my alma mater, Steve Scandria from Old Dominion. So that one you get a negative point for. And then you wrestled. I wasn't really paying attention to wrestling then, but then in that Concy quarters, you wrestle Randy Couture, who goes to place higher. You lose that bout, drop in and finish in 8th place after a medical default. And what did you learn about yourself that junior year? And sit there and be like, okay, I'm on the podium. I've made a career change. I've gone from Bloomsburg to CSU Bakersfield, but I'm on the podium. That's part of my goal.
Jason, probably one of the biggest things from that year, and I'm not going to, I ended up 8th in that tournament. And I hurt my knee a little bit. That's why I didn't wrestle the 7th and 8th place match. When we went out for the awards, everyone, they do the parade of champions and all that. And then when the 190-pound class went to get up on the stand, up on the podium to give all the awards, I took 8th. So, I was the first one. I stood on the gym floor. I didn't stand on the podium. There was no step for me to stand on. I stood on the gym floor, and there's a little sign in front of me that said 8. And when they gave out awards, all I got was a handshake. I didn't get a medal. I didn't get a plaque. I didn't get crap. All I got was a handshake. And I remember telling myself every day from that day until the day I won the national tournament, there's no gosh dang way I'm going to stand on that floor and get nothing but a handshake. When I leave this tournament my senior year, I'm going home with as much hardware as possible. So that was kind of, to be honest, a big motivating factor, having to stand on that floor and get nothing but a handshake.
Your senior year, you end up winning it as the number 4 seed. And again, there's that guy again, Randy Couture. And, few people can say they've got, there's people that have wins over Randy Couture. Yours happened to be in the national finals. What did you draw from your previous matches with Randy that you said, all right, this is my time to win. I'm going to win this match. I'm not on that, I'm not on that second step here.
Yeah. Well, Randy was tough. He was very tough opponent. I knew that, as long as I wrestled him below the waist, I was going to be all right. I didn't want nothing to do with him. I made that mistake my junior year. I let him tie me up, and he got a Russian arm tie on me and took me down, and that was pretty much the match. So I made sure my senior year that I did not allow him to do that, and I wrestled him. Really, I tried to wrestle him from the knees to the ankles. I didn't even want to touch them big old thighs of his either.
Oh, man. So, how many people talk? Would California's got such a huge MMA culture in it. And when, people bring it up and be like, yeah, I wrestled Randy Couture. Are they just like blown away? You're like, you beat that guy?
Oh, it's so funny, to be honest with you, because I just, it was last year I was buying a camera in Best Buy. I have a wrestling shirt on, and this guy's talking to me about wrestling. And finally I tell him, look, yes, man, I wrestled in college. I was an NCAA Division I national champion. And he just kind of looked at me like, I just said something in French to him. And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, you know what? When I was in the finals, you know who I beat? And he kind of looked at me. I said, I beat this guy named Randy the Natural Couture. And that guy lit up like a Christmas tree. He took me. He's like, you know what? You don't want one of these cameras. You need this camera over here. And then he ended up giving me the employee discount. So I get more out of that than I do out of winning the national championship. That's funny.
Randy might get perks, but he doesn't get perks like that when he walks into a Best Buy.
No, he doesn't.
I mean,
no.
he gets perks when he walks into places in Vegas, which, people like you and I are definitely not getting. But, when you come to that time and when your career ended up at Bakersfield, what was that time like between then and when you started coaching at Moore Park in 1995?
You know what? I worked on my master's degree during that time, and I was an assistant coach at Bakersfield College, and I had a job. I worked in the oil fields in Bakersfield. So it was an interesting time. That's kind of where I started my coaching career, and really tried to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Whether I was going to relocate or whether I was going to stay with wrestling. I was a little unsure about both of those things. And, fortunately for me, during that time, I met my beautiful wife, and she's from Bakersfield, and that's partly why I stuck around Bakersfield.
During that time with Bakersfield College, not to be confused with CSU Bakersfield, it's in the 2-year California junior college system. What was it about the league that maybe enticed you to say, you know what, this is where I could coach? Was there a moment that this is the league for me? This is where I can really do something with my wrestling knowledge?
Jason, it was probably, when I was an assistant for Bakersfield College for 4 or 5 years. The last couple of years, I really started to enjoy coaching. I did start to enjoy it. I ended up getting married and got a head coaching job at Moore Park. And it was probably 2 or 3 years of coaching at Moore Park when I realized that I really liked coaching at junior college. I like the level of kids. I feel like I could make a difference in their lives. I feel like for me, it gives me my it takes out my adrenaline. It gives me my rush for wrestling. And one of the true gifts that I really love about coaching in junior college, Jason, is I still get to spend time with my family. The season doesn't consume me. The 4 months that our season from August to, we just finished is definitely consuming. But, now I'm compared to a lot of other levels of coaching and wrestling, I got some downtime now. I go and recruit a little bit locally, and now's my time to spend time with my family and get back and remember that I'm a dad and go out to dinner with my wife and maybe even sleep in a little bit.
Maybe even pay attention to the Division I level wrestling. Your season's not going on at the same time primarily as theirs are. There's a little bit of an overlap, but you get to watch the postseason.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm excited. And we got, Ali Nasser's wrestling at Arizona State. So I've been following Ali and a few other, local Clovis kids at Penn State. And yeah, I'm excited about the college season. And, California, we got some new coaches out here in California too. And so I think California's going to start making a little noise on the level.
Well, there's some positive news that comes out that ties into your career at Moore Park. Moore Park announced this week that they're going to be bringing back the wrestling program, which they cut, I believe, 2009. You spent 10 years there. What's it mean to have Moore Park back in the California junior college system?
Oh, man, that's awesome. I'm very, very happy with that community, with that, with the new athletic director, Vance Manikis. And, Vance was the trainer when I was there. And, it's just really nice, Jason, to know that there are truly wrestling supporters and wrestling believers out there. Vance was part of the program when I was there, and he saw the things that wrestling did. And of course, the coach before me did the same things also, John Keever. And I'm proud of the community for stepping up and putting pressure on the school to bring the program back. And, it's just a great day in California wrestling. We got Fresno State back, now we got Moore Park College back. We got over 28,000 high school wrestlers in the state. That's just great for the sport of wrestling. And man, California sure does need it.
Yeah, I'm just curious on what's the next step, because when we had Donnie Garriott on the program a couple months ago, as they were in the midst of a very solid season, there was some discussion amongst the California coaches about the adaptation or the influence of bringing in women's wrestling within the California community colleges. What's been your stance on that? And, how soon do you think that could happen and become a reality?
That's going to be a reality, Jason. I think within the next 3 to 5 years, California Community College is going to be competing in women's wrestling. It's something that us California Community College coaches are, we've kind of decided this is something that we're going to do. Here at City College, we're starting, we have a spring class that we start to allow women in, and, we're starting to, there's a lot of interest out here. It's just a matter of getting, the curriculum and everything set with the schools and getting the classes started. And, the pathway is there. The girls want to compete. And I think it just adds to, Jason, it's just a great time in wrestling. Women's wrestling is a great complement for men's wrestling. It's a great way to build support within the administration and within the community and just to diversify and keep wrestling great. So, the women's wrestling thing is going to happen. We talked about it at our coaches meeting this past weekend. And, I really believe within 3 to 5 years, we're going to be a sanctioned women's wrestling.
Now, do you think the opportunity there exists to bring back some of the programs that had dropped their men's wrestling programs now that there's going to be a women's component potentially there? Be like, okay, instead of 20 and now 21 with Moorpark coming back, that number could be back to 30, 35, 40 men's and women's teams competing in the state?
I hope so. I really do. I mean, you got to start somewhere. And hopefully, with the addition of a couple of these programs, some of the other schools around the state that have either dropped the program or do not have a program anymore, will realize the value and the benefit of the sport. And, and it will start building and snowballing. I think one of the biggest problems that wrestling's always had is on the administration side. Wrestling coaches inherently are very independent people. They're very hardworking. They don't ask for help much. What I've learned over the course of time is that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So, I think the more we're a little more proactive and the more we get out of our comfort zone and, the more we try to diversify and look how to make our sport better, I think the better we're going to be. And women's wrestling is a classic example of that.
All right, now, Coach, we get to the brass tacks of the situation, if I'm using that cliche properly. State champions, and this was a tight race. It was 158.5 to 153.5. And when I go back and look at the brackets, and I see that, the key rounds, the semifinal round, you guys went 5-1 in that semifinal round. Cerritos goes 2-4. Do you think that was the breaking point, the moment that you and your team realized, hey, we really got a shot at this thing and holding on to this lead and winning another title?
No, absolutely. No question about it. And in fact, it was 149s. Our Dean Escobar, when he upset the Lassen kid in the semis, I mean, that was, the ball was rolling downhill right there. The snowball was rolling. And, that part was huge. And just the energy, I think we just sucked the energy right out of the gym.
Yeah, you also mentioned 149. This was a weight class where you had both wrestlers representing the finals because like the NAIA, the California Community College has adopted multiple entries of weight class, capping it at 12. You had, an intra-squad match at 149, whereas Palomar had one at 133, Mount San Antonio at 141, and Sac City again at 184. So when you capture that upset, and then Dylan Martinez comes around and knocks off Wyatt Girl, who had beaten him in the dual meet 2 weeks ago. I mean, you get both the finals points there at 149. That had to be huge. And then you got to sit back in the corner in the finals and be like, okay, you guys just go wrestle.
Yep, exactly. And then, right after that happened, right after Dylan beat Wyatt, then at 157, we go out there and, we matched up again with them, and Josh Honest, beat Moreno. So, within, 15 minutes right there, the whole momentum of the tournament swung. And like I say, the energy and, the Rams all of a sudden were
man, we were feeling it. The Fresno Express was leaving the station.
We got a lot of train references here. I mean, I think I'm not sure if I think Brass Tacks is a rodeo reference, and I just saw Trans-Siberian Orchestra the other day, which is kind of based off of a train reference. But when we get back to the wrestling, instead of these awful cliches, let's use one that you had just used earlier: the lunch pail, the hardworking attitude. And I look at the scores from throughout the season, and then I see Calvin Stuckey getting tacked 2 weeks ago to a one-point match in the finals. Is that kind of indicative of the leaps and gains you guys made over the last 2 weeks since losing the Cerritos in the state dual final?
Oh, absolutely. You know, in that same dual meet, Josh Honest got pinned. 2 weeks later, he wrestles in the finals to a one-point match. You know, both him and Stuckey both had chances to win that match. You know, I told this team, you know, last week before the state tournament, you know, I don't give out compliments very often. In fact, very rarely do I give out compliments. But I told this team this is probably one of the hardest working teams from top to bottom I've ever coached in 20-some years. And, you know, I mean, from the best kid on the team to the worst kid on the team, you know, through the course of the season, I've been impressed with their ability to come to practice every day and work hard and get better. And, you know, sometimes, you know, that getting better thing, you don't really see it, you know, on a daily basis. But, you know, man, when we started getting to the end of November and they kept coming back and they kept showing up, and, you know, Wednesday before the state tournament, Jason, we had 25 kids at practice, and you know, I was just enamored with how hard they work and how focused and you know, how they just came together. And, you know, that's what hard work does. You know, the more skin you get in the game, you know, the more you care, you know, the more willing you're willing to do things that you normally wouldn't do. And, you know, this team, they really came together and fed off each other's energy. And, you know, they never really got down on each other. You know, sometimes on a good team, you know, the kids who aren't so good, you know, they get a lot of pressure put on them to step up. But, you know, I didn't really feel that with this team. You know, they were all very supportive, and, man, it really showed. And you know, we had a few 6 a.m. in the morning practices, and, man, I was always impressed in how hard they worked. I was like, man, these guys actually do work hard. I didn't have to yell and scream at them to work hard. I didn't have to really get on their butt to show up to practice and work hard. They kind of figured that out. And man, towards the end of the year, holy cow, it really, really showed. And and they all of a sudden made the changes that we have been working on for months. It's like, you know, they just kind of waited, like, yeah, just hold on, coach, just relax, we'll get it. And then, you know, they finally figured it out.
How much of it is an expectation to win? You're a junior college, so you've got these kids 2 years. It's not like you've got 4 years to build a program. You guys have the reputation. But when those kids step in the room and they know that, you know, some of them will wrestle 2 years at the state tournament, some of them will have a red shirt and then 1 year and then off to other things. What is it about a culture of winning that makes winning that much easier when you're at a program like Fresno City?
Well, I call it tradition. You know, Fresno City College has won now 14 state titles. You know, Fresno City College was the most successful wrestling program before I came and became the coach. You know, I've just kind of tried to enhance that. And, you know, I just believe, Jason, if you build it, they will come. You know, I coach because I want to win. I think, you know, most wrestlers and most wrestling coaches want to win. I don't like losing. I've never liked losing. I don't like the feeling of losing. I did not like taking second the last 3 years in a row. I made sure that I told these guys almost once a week that, you know, we have been second 3 years in a row. And, you know, do we want to be second again, or are we going to do something about it? You know, I just determination and grit and hard work, and it sure does pay off. And they drank the Kool-Aid.
When you're coaching and you've got that run, you're used to winning, as you said. You don't want to finish second. Was there a point this season that you looked at these kids and realized, you know what? You know, even though you took the loss and, you know, to the state tournament, which was, you know, maybe even before that moment, you realized that, like, I've got a team that can win this state championship? I mean, was there a moment you're like, yeah, I've got a team that can do this?
Honestly, probably not until we lost to Cerritos in the state dual meet. The night we lost to Cerritos in the state dual meet, I knew we could have won that dual meet. I thought we let that dual meet slip through our fingers. That next day in practice, I took the trophy into the team and showed them our second-place trophy. We put that into the locker room, so every day when they came in and got dressed, they could see that second-place trophy, and we could decide what we wanted to do for the next 3 weeks of the season, if we wanted to be second place and keep doing what we were doing, or if we were going to change our attitude and change what we were doing, and we were going to win the damn thing. And the funny thing is, Saturday night we got home at 3 o'clock in the morning back to Fresno City College, and my little 125-pounder, Julian Gayton, comes in. I'm in the cage collecting all of the equipment, and Julian comes in, and he's got this trophy in his hand, and he says, "Hey, Coach, you know what? We're done with this trophy." And I said, "What trophy is that, Julian?" He says, "That's the second-place trophy you made us put in the locker room. We're done with it. You can have it back." I said, "All right, I'll take that back. Thank you, young man." So, a little psychological warfare.
I love it. And speaking of wrestlers like Gayton, you've put wrestlers into Division I rooms after they've finished up their degrees. You mentioned Ali a bit ago at Arizona State. And, of course, he's an interesting story by himself with just the path that's taken him everywhere else. But when it comes to placing guys at the next level, Dave Pacheco has done this extremely well with putting guys in the NAI and Division II and various four-year schools. What's your theory, and where do you tend to like to put kids once their career at Fresno City is over?
Most of our kids at Fresno City College are NAIA, Division II, Division III guys. Very rare. We're lucky every couple of years to get a Division I athlete, like Ali. But the majority of our guys are NAIA, Division II, Division III guys. And they have had a tremendous, a lot of our guys have had a tremendous amount of success at those levels. And they compete well, they get degrees. And to me, that's the name of the game. A lot of, it's great to be a Division I athlete, but I don't really see any harm in being a Division II All-American or an NAIA All-American or, a Division III All-American. When you sit at the bar when you're 45 years old and somebody asks you, what'd you do in college, and you say you're a college All-American, 95% of the people in the bar think that, that's awesome. Only a few people at the bar even know the difference between Division III or Division I anyway. So, to me, it's about kids getting out, matriculating, and getting degrees, and especially in California, I think if we're going to keep wrestling going and keep it alive, we need kids to graduate, we need kids to get degrees, and we need kids to come back and become teachers and coaches and put time in. And to me, that's what I want. I want kids to go get degrees and graduate from college and come back and help the sport that got them where they're at. So, most of our kids are NAIA, Division II, Division III kids.
Preach on. I love that answer because, I've said this for years. When they dropped Longwood College in Division II in my home state of Virginia, that was a huge teaching school, and there were a ton. I think that at one point there might have been over 30 Longwood alums that were high school teachers and wrestling coaches in the state. So, you take one school out, it affects it. And, I agree with what you're saying about putting these kids back in, teachers and coaches and giving the sport of wrestling back. Now, that kind of leads me to a transition here about coaching. With your success at the junior college level and being able to recruit good athletes, and of course in that Fresno area, you don't really have to recruit very hard to get good talent to come in. But when it comes to you looking at the next level, have you ever been enticed to say, you know what, maybe I'll apply for this Division I job? I mean, there were 3 jobs open in California last year alone. I mean, was there ever any enticement to say, you know what, I'm going to put my name in the hat for some of these?
No. I think the last job I think maybe about 15 years ago in Cal State Fullerton, I applied for that job, and I didn't get an interview. And after that, I was like, to be honest with you, Jason, I have no desire to go to the next level anymore. I competed on a Division I level. I'm happy as a lark coaching at junior college. I love coaching.
Man, I just coached a little junior college season. We just won the state. I've been stressed out. If you talk to my wife, she's so happy the season's over because I've been a basket case for weeks. I don't know how those guys do it at the Division I level. I mean, they go a lot longer than I do. They have a lot more stress. The other great thing about junior college is, there's no pressure here at junior college. Hell, if I don't win, no one cares. I'm the only one who cares. It's not like my job is dependent on it or I have any bonuses or anything like that. I'm not going to get fired if I have a losing season. My boosters are still going to love me. So, that's really, that's part of why I like coaching at this level. And in March, Jason, I love going to the national tournament and sitting in the stands and rooting like everybody else.
Now, despite your desire or lack thereof to go to the next level, what do you think about the quality of coaching among the head coaches? After I had Donnie Garriott on a couple months ago, I got a lot of feedback and talk about how much of a good coach and a good guy that he is at Cerritos there. And what's it like being part of this coaching fraternity that really does kind of get overlooked by basically everybody outside of the Pacific time zone?
Yeah, people don't realize, there's a lot of good coaches in California Community College. I mean, up and down. I mean, maybe their teams aren't so great, but, it's college wrestling and there's some pretty darn good coaches. The top 3 teams, top 4, every team every year has kids matriculating on to the next level. And, California gets overlooked a lot because, they're not big time Division I wrestling. But there's a lot of success stories up and down the coaching ranks of guys who, competed during their time. And that's, I think it's a wrestling thing, not so much a California Community College thing, but, wrestling coaches can break bread together and eat dinner together. And, we had our coaches banquet the night before the tournament and, we all hung out and, we all had a few sodas together and told a few stories and, we all get along. We have respect for each other. I think we all believe that, wrestling's a hard sport and it's a lot of work and we have that mutual respect with each other. And then, it's a lot of fun to coach community college. I enjoy my peers and I have a lot of respect for them too.
All right, shifting gears back to the Division I thing. You'd mentioned Fresno State in passing, but now with them ready to roll, Troy Steiner on the staff. They've brought in, Izzy Silva, Jason Chamberlain, a good coaching staff there. They're ready to build. They've got administration support with a president that cares about wrestling. They got the guy out of there who cut the program from an AD standpoint. You've got support there across town. I mean, first of all, how far is Fresno City from Fresno State?
4 miles,
4
maybe
miles.
5 miles.
So it's right there in the heart of everything. Now, you said a lot of your guys are D2, NAI, D3 guys. Do you think that's going to change now? I mean, within what you can probably say regarding, rules of where kids are going, do you think you might have a few more Division I kids starting to land on your doorstep as saying, okay, I'm going to go here and then I'm going to end up at Fresno State?
I guess my answer to that, Jason, would be nothing will make me happier than having to help Coach Steiner out with a few of his kids and, get them ready to compete at Fresno State. Nothing would make me happier. We have a big, long tradition before I came here. When I came here is when Fresno State dropped. So 2006, they dropped. It was the first year I came. So, for the last 10 years, Fresno City's been the only wrestling in Fresno. And so I'm so glad that Troy's there at Fresno State. He's going to do a great job. He's already had a huge impact on the community and the wrestling community. I hope I can only help him out. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like, community. That's kind of what I feel like I'm here for, is to help him and help, kids get to the next level. But more importantly, I want to see California wrestling get better. I want to see Fresno State and Cal State Bakersfield and Cal Poly. Stanford's doing a hell of a job right now. Those schools are good.
I've lived in California now longer than I lived in Pennsylvania, but, for the most part, Jason, I'm still going to tell you I'm a Pennsylvania guy, but, man, I'm rooting hard for these California schools. I really, there's some good wrestling out here, and all these new coaches with Coach Steiner and the other new coaches, it's only going to get better. And I hope that it's not just Fresno City and Fresno State, but I hope that all the community colleges can help the Division I schools get better. And help kids matriculate to that level and have success. I mean, that's my goal. To me, that's the spirit of what the junior college is. And, the funny thing about it is you see it a lot in basketball, you see it a lot in football, you see it a lot in baseball. And I think, gosh, if it's good enough for those guys, why can't we do that in wrestling? So I hope, with these new coaches and especially Coach Steiner, I really hope that those things start to, really loosen up and you'll see kids matriculate and move from the junior college to the Division I schools. And, I think it would just make everyone better, the junior colleges and the 4 years and California and high school wrestling as well.
No, we got a part of the show that I'm just going to throw 10 questions at you really, really fast. You ready for the challenge?
I hope so.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Question 1. What's the best match you've ever watched?
Joe Gonzalez, Gene Mills.
Ooh, good one. Question 2. You win the Olympic gold. What are you having for dinner?
Coors.
Best junior college kid you've ever seen wrestle in California?
Oof. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with this because I'm going to stay with Fresno City. I'm going to go with Ali Nasser.
All-time favorite flavor of Gatorade?
Pepino. Cucumber.
Whatever the heck that is. You're the second guy to answer that in the last 3 weeks. I haven't tried it yet. Anyway, question 5. Best wrestling movie?
Asian Quest.
Favorite international wrestler?
Satif.
You win the Powerball. What's the first college wrestling program you're going to start?
University of Southern California.
Angels or Dodgers?
Neither one. I'm a Yankees fan.
Okay, you are now no longer a guest on the show. Anyway, I'm an Angels fan, so I always have to ask that with anybody from California. All right.
But I go to Angel Stadium all the time.
Best high school wrestling state, Pennsylvania or California? This one might get you in trouble.
Yeah, I got to go PA, man. There's no doubt about that.
Who is the best JV guy on your high school wrestling team?
This one might get me in trouble. Roger Silas.
And what is your spirit animal?
A ram.
That makes sense to me. All right, Coach, you cleared the hurdle. I lost count of what questions I was throwing at you. I lost count of the relevance of the time and the ticker. I don't know. But anyway, it's been an educational and entertaining feat. But as we close, I just want to know, this is not a short time question. You can feel free to elaborate. What's the best thing about being a wrestling coach, and what's the best thing about being a wrestling coach in California community colleges?
Well, I've only ever been good at one thing, and that's wrestling. So I parlayed that into being a wrestling coach. I love being a wrestling coach. I don't feel like I have a normal job. I don't think I could go to an 8 to 5 job and sit in one place in one office all day. That's partly why I love coaching wrestling. My favorite 2.5 hours of the day is wrestling practice. I'm going to miss that for the next few months. And the best part of coaching wrestling in California is, I'm not going to lie, is being in California. The state has kind of grown on me. It's a beautiful state. I love being out here. And the funny thing is all these kids from California, they think they're pretty good. So that's half the battle, is getting them to think that they're good. So they already think they're pretty good. So that's a good thing.
Look at this. Passengers certain to die. Airline negligent.
There's a sale at Penny's.
Why on earth would I do that? Why on earth would I throw in that sound clip of Johnny from Airplane? Well, it's pretty simple, because we just got another contribution to the Matt Talk Podcast Network. This one from Ian Assail. And when I asked him how to say his name, one, he didn't want any public props, but sorry, I'm going to do that anyway, because if you contribute to the network, and specifically in your case, the Hall of Fame Legends show, which is set to really kick off monthly now that we're so close to hitting that number needed to really produce that show monthly. And I asked him how to pronounce it just so I could get it right. And the first thing that popped into my head was that line from Airplane. So I'd like to thank Ian for his support of the program. And you can, the programs, multiple programs, and what we're doing here at the Matt Talk Podcast Network. Man, a lot of stuff. I started to figure it out and I didn't really put the man hours into it yet, but it's the only place in the country you're getting college wrestling standings. It is the only place with divisional breakouts of every single score. There is, the guys at Track Wrestling that have the results that come in. Well, they're not always right there every single time. I mean, I'm digging up stuff. They're required to put them in within 24 hours. I think most teams do, especially Division Ones are doing them right then and there. But sometimes things aren't as quick as you need, especially with the smaller colleges, because sometimes there's a van ride back, it's late. Well, it's the nation's largest college wrestling school board, and that is for free. That is something I provide for you for free. But if you want to throw some change into the tip jar, you can do so by joining the team at MattTalkOnline.com/join the team. You can also offer a one-time or a monthly, though. If you do monthly and you hit a certain level, you get those perks. You get. I actually had a discussion today about the new hats that I'm getting done. The draft glasses are coming. So the first wave I sent out a couple months ago now, a lot of patrons came through with Giving Tuesday. So got a lot of draft glasses and T-shirts. And the hats are going to be a little behind, but folks, hang tight. So I'd like to thank everybody for their continued support of this program, the entire network. And also, if you're at that $10 a month level, you've already received this, but some of you have also been consumers of the Fargo Guide. Basically, it is the digital program that outlines every All-American from the USA Wrestling Cadet and Junior Nationals, as we have lovingly, embracingly calling it Fargo. Unrelated, I did watch North Dakota State just pound South Dakota State in football on Saturday night after coming home from Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I've actually mentioned that on a couple different shows since they rocked the house at the Excel. So if they're not Russian though, that was kind of I never really did any research on Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I was just like, all right, cool. I assumed they were just Russian. Nope. No, they're just some metal hair guys that like Christmas music and violins and violas and hair and grit chains. So they're a killer show. Anyway, but talking about Fargo and the Fargo Almanac. Wow, I like how I tied that all together. The Fargo Almanac is there with everything, every All-American from every state, every team, the top 10 standings, even unofficially going back to 1971, the year that the Junior Nationals started in Iowa City, and then it was freestyle only in 71, then freestyle and Greco in 72. The cadets started in 85, 86, that range. And then, of course, the women added in 01, 02-ish, and then the cadet women added, I think, in 2011. So every single All-American ever is in that book. And guys like Gene Lee in Illinois just keep, throwing me ideas to update things. So everything you can think. I'm now working on getting all the scores. Now, it took me 3.5 years to get all of the names. Now I have to go back, and granted, thankfully, I have about 40 years of amateur wrestling news is next to me that I can start digging through. So that's another project, and that's another thing that the contributions, the monthly thing, that goes to, because I'm not going to sit here and do all the. I mean, yeah, I'm probably there's a lot of research I'm going to do kind of on my own, but if there's an incentive to provide products that my team members want, then yes, I'm going to do that work. So. I'll have a lot of time to do some of that independent study, that research. Anyway, moving forward, wrestling news. Hey, Logie Bear, he won a world title. That's impressive. Had his stuff stolen from him, though, as soon as he gets back to the U.S. Great. Yep. Quality American right there, stealing somebody's, just gutless pieces of trash. It drives me nuts. But apparently United World Wrestling did see the tweet, and which didn't go down, by the way. They did see the tweet. And apparently they're going to try to send Logie Bear, that's Logan Stieber, another belt and medal, because that was just, 30 minutes after he gets off the plane, it's ganked. That's ridiculous. Allie Ray G, she picks up a silver medal, and atta girl there. So the non-Olympic weights, the World Championships, I think people are expecting James Green. I was expecting him to medal since he did medal in 2015 at the same weight, but interesting concept. Budapest, great city, one of my favorite cities in the world. Although apparently their internet in the facility was a little suspect, and by a little suspect, I mean a lot suspect. Moving forward, I'm not going to harp on bad bandwidth because some things you can control, some things you can't. And speaking of things you can't control, Amazon. This has nothing to do with wrestling. I'm just going to go down a little rabbit hole here for a minute. So I'm working, I've been married 6 years, and I'm not really great at the Christmas thing. And I'm not really great at the stocking thing. I mean, I think the funniest thing about, Christmas stockings is the old Mitch Hedberg joke. I think a severed foot is an awesome stocking stuffer. Is either awful or awesome or incredible or ultimate. I don't know. I can't, I just can't remember it off the top of my head, and I don't feel like going to get the soundbite right now. But we didn't do stockings in my house growing up. It was just stuff under the tree. Yeah, nothing really too exciting. I mean, my younger sister, we built her stuff when there was the whole Santa thing going on. And if you still believe in Santa Claus, I'm not going to ruin it for you here. But we did put stuff together for my sister, stuff that Santa didn't bring down the chimney. And, of course, here in Minnesota, chimneys either get used or they're capped. And Santa's going to have a hard time sliding down my chimney. Just give him a key to the back door. Make sure he doesn't play any my retro video games, which my wife... I finally took a game of Dr. Mario for my wife today. Whew. Oh, by the way, I record this on 12/12. Sweet, 12/12. The 12 house back in Norfolk. Okay, so I was talking about Christmas. I'm not diagnosed with ADHD or ADD, but I'm pretty sure I might have it, especially at least when I podcast this part of the show. So Christmas, I'm trying to find ways, and when you have a shared bank account, it's kind of hard to shop for your wife for Christmas when the stuff's coming out of the same account, whether it be the bank account or the credit card. So, and I'm not gonna use my business account for that type of stuff because then you're getting the funds and the accounting. It's just a pain in the butt. So, I've figured out that when we order stuff from Amazon and it's for our daughters, I'm gonna slide a gift in there. That way, when it comes in, I'll be like, and I said, don't check any Amazon boxes because I'm going to be, certain things that you're going to get and certain things you're not. So, she doesn't know what's coming and where. So tonight, before I record this intro and long after I've done the interview with Paul Keysaw, who is awesome, by the way, California Community College is representing Fresno City College, go Rams. The boxes that came in, one came in while I was in New York City. I was like, don't open it and put it down. She's like, this monstrosity of a box. And I know what I bought. And I go downstairs and I look, I was like, oh, that's a pretty big box. So I finally open it today. A couple more boxes are coming in. Got more stuff last night that we ordered for our kids and my nieces and nephews in Virginia and my wife's family up in northern Minnesota. And when I say northern Minnesota, they live north of Duluth. That's freaking north. That's freaking cold. They're basically Canadians. But I start there. I take the X-Acto knife, the box cutter, hack them open, and in the main gift for my wife, which I didn't expect to come in a box that big, is a chainsaw. Yeah, so I go look, and there was no shipping receipt in there, and I looked at my orders to make sure I didn't happen to buy a chainsaw, and it's not like a man chainsaw. This is like it's a limb trimmer. It's like one of those chainsaws on a pole that cuts down limbs, and which we could have used last summer, but it's like, okay, it's not even like a real chainsaw. It's like, oh, yay. It's like, here, go trim that lilac. It's so, can't say that's like bank error in your favor. That's never happened. I've never gotten something that's like, I really want, that's the case. You never get anything you want accidentally. Yeah. I got basically a junior varsity chainsaw. This was like not even JV. This was like rec league chainsaw. I'm sure it could be used to cut some things, but you're not going to see this on like the steel lumberjack games and stuff like that. It's probably electric. I'm not going to open it. Probably going to send it back, even though by law, I looked this up, you can actually keep it. So while I'm trying to figure out this Christmas thing, I get sent anyway. Curious about the weird gifts you've had. Hit me up on Twitter at Jason M. Bryant, not the other account that seems to be floating around and likes pollen. I don't know what to do about that, folks. I'm still searching it out. If you have any ideas, let me know at Jason M. Bryan on who you think the culprit might be behind the spoof account. Yeah, just a thought. So I want to hear weird things that have been sent to you accidentally, and your suspects on whoever that account is with the word that shall be named, that shall be remain nameless here on the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 298 coming up on 300. Going to drop a new one. Gabe Dean's going to come on the show next week. We're going to wait until he finishes up with his run through Oklahoma. Got a big match with Nolan Boyd, a rematch, one of the guys that knocked him off last year. So we'll talk to Gabe Dean on a later episode. Could be 299, could be 300. And then we'll probably take a short break for the holiday and get things on for rolling for episode 300. Going to try to do some special things for that. Bring in, I think we're going to bring Kyle and Richard and Earl. And we just had Shane on, but people who have had a lot to do with this program. And a reminder, I've still got a couple of you high perk level guests. Phil Merrill, I'm looking at you. Drew Burgoyne, I'm looking at you. Matt Waters, looking at you. Yep, you guys hit that certain level of monthly support. Therefore, you get to be a guest and or co-host. So we'll set that up this season. So I know, Phil, you're up in who knows where, Michigan. So we got to pick the time where your bandwidth is slightly better than United World Wrestling, and then we can work on things here. Drew, next time you're passing through, I got some better suds in the fridge, and that's all I got. But Gabe Dean's going to be our next guest. Maybe. I mean, he's booked. It's just, kids are kids. Things happen. So, but expect, that's another thing. Give me a nickname for Gabe Dean. We need a nickname for Gabe Dean. Okay. So, nothing poetic on the end of this show. Just like to thank you for spending your time with me, because you've always got time for Short Time.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.